Thanks for being here on this Sunday. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Middle East again today, visiting Qatar. We are waiting for a press conference later this hour from him. His visit is part of an urgent diplomatic tour across the region to attempt to de-escalate tensions and prevent a broader regional war. This, as the IDF says, it has completed dismantling Hamas's command structure in northern Gaza. Gilad Erdan is Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, and he joins me live this morning. Ambassador Erdan, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for having me, Rosemary.
I want to start with that visit by Secretary Blinken. He is obviously speaking to other nations in the Middle East to try and use their influence over regional actors to make sure this conflict is contained. What do you make of these ongoing efforts by Secretary Blinken? Do you think he's getting anywhere?
Yeah, we think that his visit is extremely important because we are seeing what's happening in the Red Sea. We are seeing what's happening on our northern border. We expect countries like Lebanon and Yemen to be held accountable for the attacks emanating from their territory. So we hope that he will pressure regional players to get involved, and making sure that this conflict won't expand.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about the Red Sea. Obviously, Canada worried about that too. But first, let's talk about the northern border, because we saw over the weekend more fighting and fire exchange there. And Israel's defense minister said on Friday that obviously the preferred path would be a diplomatic one. But he also said we're getting close to the point where the hourglass will turn over. Do you have a sense of whether Israel would launch a major military operation in Lebanon, and how much pressure is there on Israel to make sure that the regional conflict does not broaden?
Obviously, if we decide to initiate a full-scale attack on Hezbollah, we're not going to tell them here the exact date. But you are right. I mean, any other country that would have suffered such attacks on its civilians. And it's important to understand, we have more than 50,000 Israeli civilians who were displaced from their homes on our northern border because they were attacked by Hezbollah, totally unprovoked. Hezbollah has nothing to do now with the war that we have in Gaza. But in the last I think few years, Hezbollah continued to violate Security Council resolutions like 1701. They continue to arm themselves, and they build military compounds literally on our border. And this is a situation that we cannot tolerate anymore, because they might initiate the same massacre and attack that Hamas initiated on our southern communities. So as our minister said, we always prefer diplomatic solutions, but we will have to set some deadline. And if we are not able to achieve a diplomatic solution, we will have to try to solve it with military means.
Let's talk about the Red Sea if we can. Obviously, members of the UN Security Council, as you know, called on the Houthis to stop their attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. You also talked about that at the UN this past week. How big a threat do you think those attacks pose to the stability of the region, and how much of it do you think is about trying to draw in other nations like the US, like Canada?
I think it's a threat not only against Israel. It's a global threat. It's not only Israel's problem, because it has already led to an increase in the cost of maritime trade, and they attacked more than 20 times merchant vessels from different countries and nationalities. Obviously, they're doing it, to help the terrorists of Hamas, and we congratulated the establishment of the Maritime Task Force. But words are not enough. We expect now to see this Maritime Task Force responding decisively and swiftly and forcefully to any attempt of the Houthis to attack merchant vessels because, as I said, it's not only Israel's problem. And there's another important thing that needs to be mentioned. The Houthis, they belong to a very poor country, which is Yemen.
Yes.
They could never had cruise missiles or the intelligence that is helping them to attack merchant vessels without the aid, without the equipment, without the instructions that they receive from Iran.
Yes.
So we should all understand that the biggest problem, it's not only a regional problem, it's a global threat, is Iran with its malign activities, with their attempt to force their Shiite hegemony over the Middle East. And without a credible military threat against Iran, these attacks will continue.
Let me talk to you about the other thing that Secretary Blinken is obviously doing in the region and something the U.S. has been doing, and that is trying to increase pressure on Israel to do more to protect civilians in Gaza, allow more humanitarian aid. I spoke to the chief economist of the World Food Program, people will see that in a moment, who says that there is a real threat of a famine in Gaza. When will we start to see some changes in the terms of how Israel is allowing aid into Gaza, or how the IDF is targeting people in Gaza so it is not civilians who are targeted?
First, I would like to say that the situation in Gaza is a tragedy. Every civilian loss of life is a tragedy, and obviously we are not fighting against the people of Gaza. We are fighting against the terrorists of Hamas. But everyone needs to know that Israel, we facilitate and we support every humanitarian initiative. We already enabled the entrance of more than 7,000 trucks with goods, with medical equipment, with everything that the people of Gaza needs. But during times of war, the situation is very challenging. But instead of pressuring Israel, which is not needed, because as I said, we allow the entrance of humanitarian aid to Gaza, I think that the international community should unite to pressure Hamas, because this war can end tomorrow. It can end even today. If Hamas turn themselves in, if they release all of our hostages, this war can end today. We didn't want this war. It was Hamas that initiated this war. It was Hamas that turned the whole Gaza Strip to a terror war machine in the last 18 years since Israel withdrew from Gaza. So I believe that what needs to be done right now is to unite the international community to pressure Hamas, and also to ask the Muslim world to pressure Hamas to turn themselves in.
I hear you, Ambassador, but obviously if there's more than 21,000 Gazans who are dead, and if the World Food Program says that Gaza is on the brink of famine, obviously there is not enough getting in to help the people there. Would you agree with that more has to be done?
No, I disagree, because I don't know of any humanitarian initiative to bring inside Gaza food or water or medical equipment that we are not facilitating and supporting. Again, this is a very complicated situation because Hamas has embedded itself and its terrorist infrastructure within and under the civilian population of Gaza. That's why we asked for the temporary evacuation of areas in Gaza. But I don't know of any humanitarian aid that any country wants to bring into Gaza and Israel prevents from entering.
Ambassador, let me quickly ask you about last month's ceasefire resolution, which, as you know, Canada supported, although Canada's ambassador to the UN, Bob Rae, also explained the decision and said that Canada still supported Israel. I wonder if you've spoken to Ambassador Rae since then, and whether you understand Canada's position or how you feel about it now.
I haven't spoken with Ambassador Rae since then. I consider him a friend. And obviously Israel is is grateful for the friendship with Canada, but frankly and openly, I will say that we were extremely disappointed with Canada's support for the Egyptian resolution, not only because the resolution did not condemn Hamas and the October 7th massacre, it did not even mention Hamas, but in addition or above that, calling for the immediate ceasefire, unconditional ceasefire, is a victory for Hamas. This is exactly what Hamas wants, because it will guarantee the survival of Hamas and its reign of terror in Gaza. And we believe that we share with Canada, a liberal democracy. We share the same objectives. We are committed to supporting and defending human rights, fighting terrorism, and there's no other way to eradicate Hamas's terror capabilities without continuing the war until we remove Hamas from power.
Ambassador Erdan, we've been hoping to get you on the program. Glad you made the time this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rosemary, for having me. Thank you.